The real story is not the song, the video, the lawsuit, or the award. The real story is the pressure. It is the pressure behind a sudden single announcement, the pressure behind a visual that lands with the wrong crowd, the pressure behind a courtroom motion that refuses to die, the pressure behind a career-defining certification, and the pressure behind a major award body trying to explain itself after global backlash. And that is why today's lineup is bigger than a routine celebrity news roundup. Because once you line these stories up side by side, you start seeing the same pattern over and over again: artists, labels, fans, and institutions all trying to control the narrative before the narrative controls them. So here is where we are going. We are talking about Cardi B and why a summer that looked carefree suddenly turned into rollout season. We are talking about Tyla and why one music video created a bigger conversation than the song itself. We are talking about Thee Stallion, Milagro Cooper, and a legal fight that keeps reminding everybody that internet mess can turn into real consequences. We are talking about SZA and the kind of milestone that makes the rest of the industry stop and stare. And then we are ending with BTS, the Grammys, and a debate that is no longer just about one category. It is about who gets celebrated, who gets separated, and who gets to define what recognition even means. Let's start with Cardi B, because Cardi B always knows how to make a moment feel bigger than a moment. The immediate headline is simple enough: Cardi B announced that AHA would be dropping on Friday, July 31st, marking her first release of 2026. Billboard reported the single announcement directly, and that alone would have been enough to turn heads after a relatively quiet release year. But the reason people are leaning in is not just the song title. It is the mood around the song. It is the feeling that Cardi B is stepping back into the ring with a little bit of irritation, a little bit of honesty, and a lot of expectations hanging over every move she makes. Billboard, https://www.billboard.com/music/rb-hip-hop/cardi-b-a-single-release-date-1236305-735. And that is what makes the online clip floating around so effective. Whether people heard it as a joke, a vent session, or a brutally transparent admission, the reaction was immediate because it hit a nerve people already had about Cardi B. The frustration in the clip is not complicated. It sounds like somebody who wanted to enjoy what was left of the summer and then got dragged right back into content mode, rollout mode, work mode, performance mode, deliver right now mode. And that tension matters because Cardi B is one of those artists where people do not just judge the release. They judge the delay, the energy, the body language, the urgency, the gaps between eras, the captions, the snippets, and the confidence level. With Cardi B, fans do not merely want music. They want proof of momentum. That is why, AHA feels like more than a single. For Cardi B, AHA is a temperature check. It is a test of whether the internet excitement around a preview can actually convert into streams, conversation, and chart traction once the full record arrives. It is also a test of whether Cardi B can still do the thing she has always done at her best: turn personality into event television. Because even when people criticize Cardi B, even when people doubt Cardi B, even when people think Cardi B has taken too long, Cardi B remains one of the few artists who can make irritation look marketable. She can make annoyance look like anticipation. She can make a complaint sound like promo without fully losing the rawness that makes people feel like they are seeing the real person rather than a polished press release. But that is where the risk comes in. If Cardi B sells this moment as pressure, then the music has to sound like release. If Cardi B sells this moment as being pushed, then the record has to hit hard enough to justify the push. A weak record after a loud setup always gets judged twice as harshly, because people do not only hear the song. They hear the weight. They hear the expectations. They hear the years of discourse attached to the comeback. And the uncomfortable truth is that Cardi B is now playing against time as much as she is playing against competition. When you wait long enough, every new drop gets treated less like a song and more like evidence. That is why this Cardi B story is so interesting. Cardi B is not being measured like a random artist dropping a summer single. Cardi B is being measured like a star whose next phase has to mean something. So when Cardi B gripes about being pushed back to work, fans hear multiple versions of the same sentence. One group hears sarcasm. One group hears burnout. One group hears honesty. One group hears a label stepping in because the window is open and they do not want the heat to cool off. And maybe the truth is that all four readings can exist at once. Because in pop culture, a rollout is rarely just a rollout. It is scheduling, pressure management, fan psychology, market timing, and image maintenance disguised as a song release. Now shift that conversation from music pressure to visual pressure, and that is where Tyla walks into the frame. Tyla's "That Girl" video did not just get judged as a video. It got put on trial as a statement about taste, effort, technology, and trust. Yahoo's coverage of the backlash makes the core issue very clear. Viewers began questioning whether parts of the clip looked AI-generated, and those suspicions escalated because the company behind the visual had previously used AI in other work. The allegations were not verified in the reporting, but the public reaction was already there. And that reaction tells you everything about the current climate. Audiences have become hypersensitive to anything that looks synthetic, inconsistent, or visually uncanny. Yahoo Entertainment, https://www.yahoo.com/entertainment/music/article/y-tyla-girl-music-video-1500050.html. The reason this turned ugly so quickly is because Tyla's brand is built on feel. Tyla sells motion. Tyla sells rhythm. Tyla sells cool. Tyla sells texture. When people think Tyla, they think dance, polish, charisma, and physicality. So when a segment of the audience expected choreography, island energy, or a more tactile visual world, and instead felt like they got something more artificial or remote, they did not just say the video looked off. They felt like the branding promise had been broken. That is why the comments got so intense. This was not just, "We do not like the edit." It was, "This does not feel like the Tyla we bought into." And that distinction is important, because fans are often rude when they are actually talking about disappointment. They turn taste into outrage. They turn confusion into sarcasm. They turn unmet expectations into accusations. But underneath all of that noise is a very old entertainment truth: if your star's identity is built around a certain sensory experience, people are ruthless the second they feel a disconnect. Tyla can absolutely experiment. She should experiment. Every serious artist has to experiment. But experimentation is never judged in a vacuum once audiences think they know your lane. The second something looks cheaper, colder, or less human than expected, people start writing a bigger story about decline, label faith, budget cuts, or momentum slipping, whether they can prove any of that or not. And let's be fair here, because fairness matters. Public backlash is not proof. Social media theories are not audited financial statements. A viral accusation is not the same as confirmation. But perception drives culture almost as aggressively as facts do. If the audience believes a video feels disposable, then the artist has to deal with that belief whether the accusation is accurate or not. That is the brutal part of a digital era rollout. The music video is no longer just a visual companion. It is evidence in the case for or against the artist's current relevance. For Tyla, the next step is not merely defending one creative choice. It is restoring confidence in the sensory world around the music. From there, we move into a very different type of pressure, because Thee Stallion's story is not about a song or a visual. It is about what happens when internet warfare collides with federal court reality. The coverage I could verify shows that Milagro Cooper, also known as Milagro Grams, sought to overturn the $75,000 judgment entered in Thee Stallion's favor after an earlier effort to pause payment was denied. In other words, the fight did not stop at "delay the consequences." It moved into "erase the consequences altogether." That alone tells you how serious the fallout has become. Hot New Hip Hop, https://www.hotnewhiphop.com/1002780-milagro-gramzy-megan-the-stallion- lawsuit. What makes this story powerful is how sharply it cuts against the fantasy world of non-stop commentary culture. Online, people talk like every claim is just content, every accusation is just a take, every video is just discourse, and every rumor is just part of the game. Courtrooms are the reminder that the game has walls. In court, a person's reach does not substitute for evidence. A fan army does not substitute for a legal standard. A hot timeline does not substitute for a ruling. And once damages enter the conversation, the entire energy changes. Suddenly the difference between "I'm just talking" and "I'm legally responsible for what I said or spread" becomes very real. That is also why Megan Thee Stallion's name keeps carrying a particular weight in these stories. Megan Thee Stallion has spent years at the center of one of the most chaotic and polarizing narrative wars in modern music culture. Every update around Megan Thee Stallion becomes larger than the paperwork because people project all their old fights onto it. Supporters see vindication. Critics look for loopholes. Neutral observers see another example of how ugly internet celebrity discourse can get when no one believes lines exist anymore. And Megan Thee Stallion herself remains in that difficult position where any legal victory is treated by some as closure, by others as escalation, and by others as merely the next round. The broader point is not that every court development magically ends the argument. It usually does not. The broader point is that legal process forces seriousness onto a conversation that often thrives on unserious behavior. That is why this Megan Thee Stallion story matters beyond fan camps. It is a reminder to the entire commentary economy that repeating, amplifying, or packaging explosive claims can create exposure nobody wants once an actual judge, jury, or motion is involved. The internet loves to reward certainty. The law tends to punish overconfidence. And every time a case like this stays alive, the message gets louder. Now, after all of that tension, let's talk about a story that feels almost unreal in the opposite direction: SZA continuing to stack milestones like they are routine. Billboard reported in March that Kill Bill and Snooze both reached diamond status, giving SZA her first 2 RIAA diamond certifications. That was already elite territory. Since then, fresh reporting circulating this week has pointed to Good Days also reaching diamond, which would place SZA at 3 diamond records in the United States. Even before you get into stan language or celebration posts, the scale of that accomplishment is hard to overstate. Billboard, https://www.billboard.com/music/rb-hip-hop/SZA-first-RIAA-diamond-certifications-kill-bill-1236201568. The reason SZA's achievement hits so hard is because it does not feel gimmicky. It feels earned slowly, then all at once. Kill Bill was a monster. Snooze had staying power most artists would beg for. Good Days lived in people's heads, playlists, captions, and emotional memory long enough to become part of the culture rather than just part of the release calendar. SZA has managed to build the type of catalog where songs do not merely debut well. They linger. They age well. They continue collecting listeners long after the discourse cycle has moved on to somebody else's emergency. And that is a major distinction in today's music economy. There are artists who trend, and there are artists who accumulate. SZA accumulates. SZA accumulates trust. SZA accumulates replays. SZA accumulates emotional attachment. SZA accumulates the kind of audience relationship that turns records into standards rather than spikes. That is why the certification conversation around SZA feels different from a quick viral headline. It is not saying, "Look who won this week." It is saying, "Look whose music kept living after the moment everybody else was fighting for expired." In a landscape obsessed with noise, SZA keeps getting rewarded for endurance. And if you zoom out, SZA's win also acts like a silent rebuttal to the chaos in the other stories. While one artist is facing comeback pressure, another is managing visual skepticism, and another is locked in a legal aftershock, SZA is standing there with the kind of commercial proof that quiets almost every argument before it starts. That is the beauty of a diamond record. It is difficult to spin away. People can argue taste forever. They can argue rollout decisions forever. They can argue who deserved what forever. But a diamond plaque enters the room with a different kind of authority. It says the public did not just notice. The public stayed. Then we arrive at the Grammys, BTS, and the kind of controversy institutions always struggle to explain once fans think the deeper issue has already been exposed. Variety reported that Harvey Mason Jr. said he was saddened that BTS chose not to submit for the 2027 Grammy Awards, while emphasizing that the new Asian pop category was designed to spotlight Asian artists, not exclude them from the general field. He explicitly argued that submitting in a genre category does not block eligibility for Record of the Year, Album of the Year, or Song of the Year. That is the official explanation. Variety, https://variety.com/2026/music/news/grammy-chief-sadden-bts-won't-submit-for-2027-awards-12368238991. But official explanations and public emotions rarely move at the same speed. From the Academy's perspective, adding a category can be framed as expansion, inclusion, and overdue recognition. From a skeptical fan perspective, adding a category can feel like elegant separation. It can feel like a compliment with a boundary built into it. It can feel like the institution is saying, yes, we see you, and we've prepared a room for you, while the audience is asking, why was a separate room necessary in the first place? And that is why this BTS story became bigger than a procedural award submission issue. It immediately turned into a symbolic fight over who gets folded into the center and who gets honored from the edges. BTS refusing to submit gives the story extra voltage because it transforms discontent into action. A complaint is one thing. Non-participation is another. When global artists pull back from an awards process, the institution loses more than an entry. It loses automatic legitimacy. That is why Harvey Mason Jr.'s response sounded careful. He was not just clarifying rules. He was trying to control what the new category means before the public permanently defines it in a more cynical way. Because once fans decide a category is a consolation lane rather than a celebration lane, every future nominee ends up carrying that argument into the room. And this is where all 5 stories suddenly rhyme. Cardi B's moment is about the pressure to convert attention into a successful return. Tyla's moment is about the pressure to keep a visual identity feeling human and premium in an audience environment primed for distrust. Thee Stallion's moment is about the pressure created when online narratives hit legal boundaries. SZA's moment is about the opposite kind of pressure, the standard that comes with sustained excellence once the numbers become impossible to ignore. BTS and the Grammys are about institutional pressure, the kind that shows up when a global act refuses to play along and forces an awards body to justify its architecture in public. That is the modern entertainment machine in one snapshot. Everybody is reacting to pressure. Labels react to timing pressure. Fans react to expectation pressure. Institutions react to legitimacy pressure. Commentators react to engagement pressure. Artists react to career pressure. And the reason these stories keep exploding is because the audience is no longer content just to consume the final product. They want to read the stress lines around the product. They want to know who rushed what, who miscalculated what, who stood firm, who got vindicated, who panicked, and who looked prepared. So here is my real question at the end of all this. Which story do you think matters most over the next few weeks? Cardi B's return with, Tyla's attempt to move past the AI backlash, Thee Stallion's ongoing legal significance, SZA's latest milestone, or the fallout from BTS refusing to submit to the Grammys? And even bigger than that, which kind of pressure changes a career fastest now, weak music, weak visuals, weak judgment, or weak institutional trust? Because that is the part nobody should ignore. A lot of careers do not collapse from one bad song, one bad video, one ugly lawsuit update, or one awkward award headline. They wobble when the pressure starts revealing the truth underneath. Sometimes that truth is strength. Sometimes it is loyalty. Sometimes it is catalog power. Sometimes it is exhaustion. Sometimes it is a fan base that will defend anything. And sometimes it is an institution learning in real time that global audiences are no longer willing to accept old explanations with new packaging. That is why this week feels so revealing. Cardi B is being asked whether anticipation can still become domination. Tyla is being asked whether style can survive suspicion. Thee Stallion is part of a legal saga that keeps reminding the internet that narrative games have consequences. SZA is showing what it looks like when songs outlive chaos. And BTS have created the kind of award season problem no press statement can fully smooth over in one day. Different names, different stakes, same underlying fight, who controls the meaning of the moment once the public starts talking back? And that is where I want to leave it. Not with the loudest quote, not with the meanest joke, and not with the most dramatic fan war framing, but with the real takeaway. Celebrity news is getting less superficial, not more. The audience is no longer just rating songs and outfits. They are rating systems. They are rating judgment. They are rating authenticity. They are rating whether the machine behind the star feels sharp, lazy, exploitative, visionary, or completely out of touch. And the stars who understand that shift are the ones most likely to survive the next era. If you have a strongest take on any of these stories, drop it. If you think Cardi B's single is about to smash, say it. If you think Tyla's backlash is being overstated, say it. If you think Thee Stallion's legal story is a warning shot for the whole internet commentary ecosystem, say it. If you think SZA's catalog run is the most impressive achievement on the board, say it. And if you think BTS and the Grammys just opened a debate that is not going away anytime soon, definitely say it. Because this week was not random. It was one giant stress test, and the industry gave us a very revealing set of answers.